Recording has started officially. Welcoming everyone to the July 14th MicroProfile Live Hangout Working Group Discussion Edition. If you're on the call, please click on the link in the chat that will take you to the notes. Please add your name and optionally the organization you're with. Also note that the chat is going to be saved. So feel free to go ahead and chat. Just realize it's going to be saved along with the video and posted to YouTube. Okay, so we have, I think we're getting pretty close to a final charter. So let me pull this up here.
Mm-hmm. I actually added last community call we discovered the membership of contributors and commuters as one. So instead of going to the previous versions where I had written that document, that part, I just rewrote it really quickly. And this time I added even more. So before going to this part, I know David also added some parts to the goals. So we need to go to page 1.
Alexa, stop.
Sorry, my CPU is getting pegged, and I am going to do the best I can here to fix that while we kind of discuss here. So things are a little bit sluggish. I'm not sure what's running in the background. Okay, so David, you want to discuss the new bullet under the principles? Give a quick, oh, sorry. One goal at the end of this is to make sure we have a frozen charter that we can then, bring to other members and stuff, right? So that the outcome of this meeting, we want to have this be chosen. In fact, at the end of this meeting, I think what I'm going to try and do is basically turn off, basically any edits, right? So that it is like frozen. So that's the goal.
So, yeah. So John, so
yeah.
when do we actually, like submit it to Eclipse for a, it would go through public review and everything at that point, but when do we actually do that step? Taking it out of Google Docs and into their mechanism?
This week, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, we could do that. So Paul's and Mike have both been reviewing this as we go. I think Paul even added a couple of comments with our most recent additions. So let's finish this up, and we will, try and submit it, I guess, officially, hopefully at the end of this call.
I have a question. When the submission occurs, do we use the Google forum and CC Eclipse, or are we going to go private, even though we have been working on this publicly? And why is it that should we do it privately, we cannot get that direct feedback so the entire community can consume it?
I have no idea. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I was going to send an email off to Paul and say, hey, what's, this is nailed down. What's the official way for us to submit this?
And what is our preference? Shouldn't we have a preference on the process as a direct feedback of someone that is doing the work via open mediums?
Well, no, because we're trying to request to become a working group. So at some point we have to jump into their process.
Okay.
The result would be that it gets on the website finally, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Our website.
No, the Eclipse website where all the working groups are listed.
Yeah, but we bring a link in. That is fine. Okay, so move on. Bello, openness. What is this?
Yeah, well, so last time we discussed, when we're going through the bullets, it occurred to me we're missing one that was fairly important. And so, I wanted to add a bullet on openness, because we've generally made decisions in a way that encourages the most participation from everybody. For example, we've favored having open meetings versus private meetings. We have avoided, like the plague, any kind of private lists. We only have like 2 or 1.
We only have the media just to control passwords.
Right. So we have that for social media accounts, and we have another one for infrastructure.
Two.
And that's it. So we've generally challenged ourselves to act openly as much as possible. And then even on these meetings, we generally avoid trying to make decisions without flushing them out to the list first, so that people who aren't able to attend the meetings can participate. And then in terms of our specification projects, we have generally enjoyed kind of a flat model where if you earn commit in MicroProfile, you have commit access to all the specifications. Now that may not permanently stay that way, but you know, I thought it would be important to at least mention, you know, we encourage open access to all the specifications, such that, you know, new members who come in and join the MicroProfile working group, you know, in the future understand, you know, we slant towards open more than we slant towards doing things privately. And so I thought it'd be worth mentioning in the charter. So I don't know if people have any thoughts on that specifically, and how it relates to the bullets, or just.
Oh, I'm not sure if that's because I'm not native English speaker, but that last sentence seems confusing to me, saying that specification projects are encouraged to grant commit access to MicroProfile commuters. So if you're a MicroProfile commuter, don't you have commit access already?
Right. The reason, let me phrase that why this is important. Yes, it would be confusing to you in the MicroProfile community because it is the status currently that yes, you have access to all specifications. On the Jakarta side of the fence, we have like some 30 plus specification projects, and you do not have access to all of them. You have to earn your way to those 30 projects one at a time. So if we were to do that on the MicroProfile side of the fence, then that would mean you earned your commit access in MicroProfile JWT, but you still haven't earned anything on config. You haven't earned anything on you know, metrics. You haven't earned anything on REST client. You have to earn your way into all those places individually. We haven't done it that way. We have attempted to be braver and just simply have you know, one open model for all the projects.
But David, but that's because of our current structure of only having one project.
Right.
So
we may change and diverge from this, but it's simply a statement of we encourage you to be more open.
Right. But I'm, you know, and I know we've kind of discussed this before you even put it in here. I'm still wondering though, from the perspective of granting access, you know, okay, so let's pretend down the road, we end up breaking up MicroProfile into multiple projects. And so there's a brand new project that comes on board. I don't know what, you know, ABC project is going to be a new specification project for MicroProfile. To all of a sudden put everybody that's a current committer onto that project, that just doesn't seem quite right. I mean, there's no, you know, you don't know the background of these people, and you don't know if they even have an interest on being a committer and participating in that team. So hasn't that kind of complicated that project unnecessarily?
I don't know, I'll put up to other people. We've had this situation before where like the reactive stuff came in, and the challenge that they had was not that there were all these people who were unqualified participating. The challenge they had is nobody participated, even with a completely open model. So
right.
Yeah. So
my 2 cents on this is I think it's a good, the first sentence is fine, but we're discussing the last one, and as an initial setup, when you set up the working group and maybe split off the projects, I think it's obvious that all committers today should be committers on the projects in the future. But I agree with Kevin that it is kind of the opposite of all other open source projects. So if I should guess, this is something that somebody at Eclipse probably wouldn't like having in a charter. I mean, you can operate that way, but I don't think maybe it should be in the charter.
Right. So I kind of into both. So I think it's okay to note in the charter. However, I think is granting committer access to all committers and for all the MicroProfile specifications is a kind of encourage, I mean, the current committers and go to work on other specifications. However, I think his common sense always kicks in. I think his kind of all the MicroProfile committers will not go ahead to merge something they haven't got any clue with. I think is kind of, this is kind of encouragement. I do not see any kind of drawbacks with automatically grant this commit access. I think the one advantage is we preserve what we have been doing currently, and also is kind of encouragement for everybody. Once they become committed, feel welcome to work on any specifications.
So one thing I will note, because someone mentioned it, is at least currently we have no plans to break up MicroProfile into separate projects as a part of the working group, which is currently the way Jakarta works. It hasn't been the way that MicroProfile has worked. It doesn't mean that it can't be discussed and it may change, but currently there is no plan for that. So I just thought I would bring that up.
Yes, that is important. It's just good to talk about it while we see the sentence here. Mm-hmm. So what do we do about the sentence?
Yeah, so basically the other thing is we haven't got a problem with the current practice.
Right.
So if there's kind of, we found out, okay, somebody kind of trashed the repository, they haven't got any clue with, surely we can change the process.
I think the key word here is encourage to grant. It doesn't mean that commit access is going to be automatically granted, right?
It means
automatic.
It means that if a specification project wants to segment themselves off from the rest of the MicroProfile committer base and have their own small committer list, we could do it if they really felt that there was a scenario that required it. But as a general rule, we favor being more open and not doing that. So
here's, if you look at the Eclipse development process, everything at Eclipse is meritocracy based, right? And so it depends how you define meritocracy. Right now, because our boundary is basically the entire project, if you've merited commit access because you've participated even in one spec, right? I don't know if it's fair to apply what's happened in other working groups to MicroProfile, but right now the boundary of meritocracy is the project, right? And we're attempting to, I guess, break, that's the right word.
No,
do something different. No, that's why it's not the right word. We're attempting to set a different non-standard approach to how people have done that, you know. So it's gonna.
Although,
let me be fair. It's not different or non-standard. MicroProfile's been in the Eclipse Foundation for 4 years, operating this way.
Well, we've been operating under one project.
Everything else that's come along is the newer approach, right?
Well, no, because it is because we are a single project. Because every other project, forget about Jakarta EE, every other project, if you create one in Eclipse, you're just, you know, people are not automatically granted committer access. Except the thing that I will point out, the one, you know, opening that would allow us to do this is that when projects are created, you have the ability to define your initial committer list. And
But
so at that time, you know, if a new project is being created, we could determine that, okay, well then we want all of these people to be on the initial committer list.
But you see,
Well,
what are we limiting ourselves? I appreciate Roberto's question because it's spot on to bring in this conversation. We have been in Eclipse for 4 years. There has never been an issue with any more than 5 committers at the moment. Many are dormant and many are active. We have no issue, but I believe that the sentence is okay. Should we decide to do something else because something changes, we can do it, right? It gives us a chance to adjust to new waters. So this is not the call to be deciding what will come into the future. This is the call to say, is this sentence that David added sufficient? Are we okay with every, you know, it has 4 sentences. Is this paragraph okay? And to my point, I say a +1, but clearly, I already said it there. What are other voices here?
I think the key here is that today it's one project, and when it's one project, this sentence doesn't make sense at all because it's obviously there. It only comes to a point when you start creating other projects. How are you going to do that? And as John says, the initial committers, or Kevin, sorry, is that you can set the initial committer list to whatever you want. And that is the way of doing it, to kind of setting in the charter that you will grant commit access. That is kind of, I've never heard of it in any open source project. And even in Apache, you don't just add committers, you earn it. So I think it's kind of weird to put it in a charter like this.
Does it make sense to say, amend that final sentence of that bullet to say, any new specification projects are encouraged to grant on merit commit access to all MicroProfile committers?
Yeah, but then to me, that's just repeating what the EDP says. So I'm going to go back to Amelia's question. You know, what about this paragraph? What, you know, do people like it or not? I like everything but the last sentence. If everything else stays on the openness, I think that explains how we are trying to be open, but I would prefer to drop the last sentence.
So I think I'll concur with Kevin on this. Kind of backing up what Vincent said, you know, hey, we've only got one project. Maybe when if we start adding other projects, we can revisit this and update the charter. But because, well, I hate to say it this way, but we're 20 minutes on what I thought was going to be the easiest issue.
Yeah.
Let's test them out.
My recommendation is to remove the last sentence. Anyone else?
What about if we simply rephrased it in such a way that we said, you know, that we have attempted to keep access to all specifications flat and open?
Yeah, that would be better. Deleting it without adding that seems off to me.
Because then you won't say any.
Go ahead, Edwin.
Yeah, that way you won't promise anything for the future and still describe what's currently in place. So I think that's better.
The other thing is, do we need to see this in the charter?
Well, I think that based upon this discussion, I think that we do.
Yeah, but I agree. I have the same question. Isn't this the nature of all the project at Eclipse? I mean, it's open.
No,
it's not closed for anyone.
We need openness. The latest events, don't get me into that because I don't want to be that person to use.
Hold on. So can I answer the question?
Reminded to some.
So the reason this is important is because during the beginning of MicroProfile, we said, do we want to have many lists or one list? We opted to have one list to try and get everyone together. And then when we started creating several Git repos for different projects, we created them, you know, for different specifications. We deliberately created them in a way that would provide everyone access so people could float between the specifications. So it has been part of our decision-making process over the last 4 years. So the question is, how do we find a way to talk about that fits us?
Yeah.
Right?
Then it's mailing lists you're talking about.
No, because we've
it's not really committers.
choice. We specifically made this choice over the last 4 years to try to keep commit access open between the specification projects.
So then let's write that. Let's delete this sentence and say commit access is granted to all the other MicroProfile repos. Is that much more is honest? Is what we have done in the last 4 years? Let's add that and delete this sentence that is problematic to some.
But you see, then that locks us into our current structure.
And we can change it. We can change the charter whenever we want. We just
you don't want the charter to be that hard.
No.
You want it to be relative. You want it to point that direction, but allow you to deviate a little bit.
If we don't mention this in charter, it doesn't matter how we operate, right? When we operate, we can grant commit access. We don't really need to mention it in the charter.
Well, so I have a philosophy on this: is that if you don't mention your ethos and your values in some way, then you have a conversation like we just had, where, well, that's just standard the way things are done everywhere, and what's the big deal about changing it completely, right? And so if you capture your sentiment, we have attempted to keep things flat and open, technically, right? And people can float between specifications freely, and it's been on your honor not to merge something you don't understand. If we've attempted to do that as a community, we should write it down. Now, we just need to find something that captures the sentiment so we all agree it's a value we share, and that's it.
Well, I will say that this is going to be at least a 2-hour call. I'm serious, because if we're going to begin trying to find the perfect sentence on what I thought this would be the easiest issue.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a relatively long call, and we're not going to finalize the charter today. Those are kind of the two options I think we have.
How about we compromise on this?
Can you link the chart? I'm going to try.
Yeah. Paste it.
Try some other wording here.
So while you're doing that, John or Kevin, maybe I don't know if there's anybody from Eclipse on here, but can a working group make this kind of requirement on specifications that are driven by the working group?
Sorry, I'm trying to parse that question.
So can a working group, can MicroProfile working group, if this charter is defined as is, can that charter make it incumbent on any new projects that get spun up within the Eclipse Foundation that want to attach to that charter, force them to give access to anybody and everybody?
Nope.
I'm just wondering if that is possible.
No.
Because if it's not, then it's kind of a moot argument. We can put it in here, but if the Eclipse process doesn't allow it to happen, then we're stuck there anyway.
Hey, Mark, Lino, awesome to see you here.
Hi, Amelia.
Okay, what I was indicating, that we already have a mechanism to accomplish this without stating anything. So if we create new projects, we can specify people on the initial committer list. So, and then that's just following the standard mechanism for creating new projects. So I don't know why we even need this statement in here.
Well, but aren't we confusing the project itself as MicroProfile with the GitHub repositories? Because those are different things.
Right. So,
well, the committership is defined by the project. So whoever is defined as a committer for a project gets access to all of the repositories associated with that project.
Right. And to date, we've had one project for all of MicroProfile. So that was a long yes to Roberto's question.
Yeah, one project, but many repos.
Right. All right. So we can move on, but the trick is that you know, if we don't write down that we've attempted to keep things as one project where everyone has access to all things, then when it gets suggested that, oh, I'm adding a new specification and I want my own little space, you know, if the future working group attempts to move away from this single project with everyone has access to everything, the people will object, right? To be like, hey, that's not what we've done. And since we haven't communicated it to all the new people, they won't understand why people would object. It will be, well, this is the way I've done it in all the other projects that I've worked on, right? And so, just like that, we will have changed. Even though we have 4 years of working like this, the new people who haven't been here for the last 4 years, they will find it confusing. They will go, you know, and then we'll be in the middle of a community argument.
Correct, and it's noisy and it's unnecessary.
Right.
David,
and so, you know, if we don't at least express something that says we have deliberately over the last 4 years tried to keep one model, you know, one project. However, we don't need to use Eclipse development process words at all. We can just simply say we have attempted to keep access to all the specification projects open to all committers.
Can you write that up while we go to the next section, David? Just like, we can accept this and then you write that sentence. John, are you in the document? Can you accept that? And then David goes and change the last sentence? Because we like openness. I mean, we freaking need it there. While David does that, can we go to the next one that is going to be adding contributors here? There, membership. So at the beginning of the documents on version 1, we wrote 3 types, and it was guests, corporate, and contributors. For some reason, contributors got deleted. I was a little bit lazy not to go into the version visions, so I just wrote something else for the review right now. Let's go down, John, and thank you so much for sharing again. And clearly we can cut this and make it smaller. Here it is. Contributors are contributors and committers. First, you have to be a contributor to become a committer. There is no buying your way around.
Right. I just want to back up just really quick, Amelia, because are we confusing what our project is with the working group? Because I don't think contributors have anything to do with the working group.
Actually, they do, Kevin. So this is the situation. Let me explain. We can have this class of contributors, committers, that are self-employed or employee, that are not affiliated with Eclipse. For instance, if someone is employed and the company is not affiliated with Eclipse, then the person becomes a committer. They will need, the employer will need to sign a consent employment release. That means that the IP, this is what we fixed in February 2020 via the Forum of Jakarta. We created a new document that makes it so individuals who have no interest in the companies to join the working group to do so by signing this document. It's a 2-page document. We can click it in here. Most of you might not have even seen it. There is a requirement to if you commit so much into the project and you earn commit by merit, you will need to sign 2 documents. And that is counting that your employer is not a working group. So we cannot deviate this is super important. And one of the main reasons, one of the most important documents have been created to fix so that anyone can contribute to MicroProfile in any Eclipse project and do so in a manner that doesn't enslave the employer to be a part of the working group And also, it doesn't make issues with IP problems. We started this group because we needed to fix the IP. If we don't add this to make sure we protect individual contributors that will become committers, that might not bring their companies to become a part of the project, we have a freaking problem. Because then this is not a community project. This is just a corporate or orgs project.
No. You're going too far.
Yeah.
So I think,
Hold on.
can I, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, whether we write that down or not, obviously we're going to keep all of our committers. So what is the specific intent with having it be called out as a member? That's a question for you.
Oh,
Amelia.
for me?
Yep.
Okay. Again, we have our committers and contributors today, but we have many that have not earned commit access. Many are still students. Many are onboarding into Java.
Wait. You have contributor member?
I said contributor members because it includes contributors and contributors. It flattens them out. For the contributor can sign the ITA. There is a contributor agreement. But if you are just a contributor and you are independent, or you are self-employed, or you're a student, just please consume it and read it. It means you need to sign 2 documents. There is a blog.
Hold on, slow down. There's no room for questions. So right now the contributor, there's a employer consent agreement. At the current state of that agreement, it only gets signed once a person earns commit access.
All right.
So the word contributor doesn't fit in that situation.
Yeah, but there are times.
And we can't have, the second aspect of it is, if we have an official membership level, right? And there is no process by which someone is deemed to be a contributor member, then it's not a member, then there's no actual membership level there, right? Someone can be a committer because they're voted in. Someone becomes a corporate member because they pay the fees. Someone becomes a guest member because they're voted in by the committers. What is the process for someone to become a contributor member? Like the official process that would pass antitrust laws, meaning we need to have a process that would deem them to be a contributor member.
That is only for them to sign the Eclipse contributor agreement. That's it.
But you already have to sign the Eclipse contributor agreement if you send in a pull request, even if you're not a committer for any Eclipse project.
Correct.
So if Eclipse already force you to do that, so why do we need to include this here? Because they won't even approve your PR if you don't sign the agreement, because that's going to be checked by the Eclipse thingy.
And the commits are not even going to be accepted, so they can't approve your PR.
Yeah.
So it's something that's mandatory for any contribution done to Eclipse. It's not a specific MicroProfile working group requirement. Any Eclipse project.
Correct. So what I did is, this is a draft. What I did was to write what I know. All contributors under the Eclipse Foundation must sign the contributor agreement. It's there. We can cut it out, like we can make it. Then we have 2 types of contributors. We have those ones that are students, lots of them that are students. They are self-employed, employed, and then
but there are not different types of contributor. There's only one type of contributor, which is the Eclipse contributor, and that will you sign the Eclipse contributor agreement, and that's it. And that's good for you to contribute to any Eclipse project, not just MicroProfile.
Yeah, but then a contributor becomes a committer by vote, by community vote, correct?
You don't know that. It may become, it may not become. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's a common practice. It's applicable to all. I don't see why it need to be in the charter. Besides, Descartes EE doesn't need to. This is a kind of it's a common sense for all Eclipse projects.
I mean, I think
But Tanya trying to talk. Maybe we give her a chance to talk.
Yeah, I think you all have covered it really well. So in order to become a contributor, all you need to do is Eclipse contributor agreement, nothing else. At the point when someone becomes a committer, which is a next level, right? There is additional paperwork that needs to be done. And that is all, so I think Amelia is talking about two different things.
Yeah, but Tanya,
So when you, go ahead.
that all of that is part of the Eclipse process. It
Yes.
shouldn't be part of.
It is part of the process. It doesn't need to be listed in the charter.
Yeah, it would actually be three different things, because there is contributor who signed the paperwork to contribute, and then a committer is a regular person who's earned commit. But again, as I mentioned, if there's a new title, contributor member, it doesn't matter that the word contributor happens to coincide with something from the Eclipse development process. Contributor member might as well be, creative member. It's a new membership designation that we're coming up with, and there would have to be a process by which someone got that title. Right.
What do you mean creative members? So we even
I was just making up a title.
Oh, okay.
I was just pointing out that the fact that it said contributor member the fact that the word contributor happens to also be used other places, it doesn't, it doesn't matter.
Amelia can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that she's referring to the Eclipse contributor members, because even on the text mentions that you must sign the Eclipse contributor agreement, which points to Eclipse contributor as any other person.
Every contributor under the Eclipse project must sign the Eclipse contributor agreement. That's the minimum base to send a PR and all this stuff. And then I just spelled some things and just said, hey, you don't need to have a backup of a company to be seen valuable under this project. That was my philosophy. We need to be so careful what we consider to be a member. I consider Sisek, who wrote an ebook with 52 chapters, a contributor. He has not earned merit. I consider like Edwin a contributor who is in his way to become a committer, and they don't have their companies coming and saying we will become a part of working group. Maybe not now, maybe later in the future, whatever. But we are talking about they will need to sign the employer consent agreement if the companies, just 2 pages, if the companies do not want to be a part of the working group or not be a part of Eclipse. It seems to me that understanding, there are very few people that understands what it takes from contributor to commit if you are a student. And it's possible. And I think MicroProfile, since inception in 2016, has done a really good job communicating how we do things. And for this not to be in the product, if it's not here, let's add it into other place that says that a contributor is as important as a corporation and as a guest, because for them not to be added and represented seems flawed and not compatible with what we have done in the last 4 years. So I don't really care where we go with this, but I care that it's documented and I care that we educate, because this should be part of a wiki if it's not part of this document.
So my recommendation is that we continue this discussion in the group. I don't think it belongs at this point in the charter, because there's no way that we can, I think, well, I don't think I have the willpower to use this as a forcing function to kind of prove this concept more broadly, to be honest. But this is a conversation that we can continue to have and maybe expand it beyond just MicroProfile, to your point. But I think that should be done outside of the charter.
So let's go. I already did this for the part of finances that we're going to get onto, and I created a different document under the MicroProfile drive. So let me copy paste and add it there to say contributor members or whatever the thing, and then we can, you know, John, can you copy and paste in the agenda, and then like that I don't have to leave this area?
I'm not quite following. You want me to copy this right here?
Copy that and please add it to the agenda so it's not lost. And if everyone else has no comments on this, then we can resolve that it will not be added to here. But we haven't heard from others. We heard from Emily, from Roberto. What about others in this call? What is your view on this? Michael, you come from New Jersey JOG. What do you think about being an independent? You write about MicroProfile, you speak on MicroProfile. What's going on with you? And I'm throwing you under the bus. You are here, so that means you need to talk.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm just, you know, I understand a little bit of what's going on. I have signed the ECA a while ago. I owe Donald Rabb a entry into the Eclipse collections. So, so yeah, in my situation, let's say, right, I know my company, my main company that I work for 30 years, they're not, it's an oil company, so they won't be part of this. So it'll be an individual contributor. But if I do enough work, I could be voted in as a committer, even though I'm not represented by a company. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Right. Okay. Okay. So.
Yeah.
And then you will need to find two documents.
Yeah, sorry. That's true for any Eclipse projects.
Exactly.
So that's why it's
right.
no
Okay.
need to add it to MicroProfile charter.
Yeah.
That's why we moved to Eclipse Foundation.
Yeah, so the ACG and J Java user group is interested in participating. I think Chandra, we talked to Chandra in the last couple of days, who's he's not here, is he?
No, he's not.
We'll have to yell at him for that, but we'll probably talk to him tonight because I have my Java meeting tonight. If anybody's interested, it's nothing really exciting. It's only our review and planning meeting because it's the summertime, so we don't expect a lot of people to attend. But in any event, yeah, I know he was going to try to help us get involved in as a Java user group as opposed to individual, if I understand that correctly. And between Barry, myself, and Chandra, I think that would be we're definitely interested in doing that.
That's wonderful.
Sure.
Thanks for announcing it here.
So
that's great. That's great to
Super
hear.
great. You will be the third organization that is a JOG community to join the MicroProfile working group. Awesome.
So if I understand, Atlanta, JUG, and Chicago are both part of it now, right?
Yeah.
Chicago is still considering.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, but Vincent, you can speak for Atlanta. You guys indicated last week that was the case. So.
Yeah, we're still all in with moving forward. Again, it's subject to agreeing on this working document.
Yeah.
And you're here.
Contract.
It's being recorded, so the JOG boards can see this video after it's published. Okay, so then Michael, understand you're a single individual, and you can earn commits should your work be measurable for it. And there are the documentation that I wrote here. We might move it into the wiki. So are we okay to make this be gone from this section? Because now it's on the agenda, and I will create a document that will populate the wiki, someplace in the wiki. Is this okay?
So you're okay eliminating it, and we'll document it somewhere else?
Yeah, I just wrote it, and it's like conversation, because we said that we will send a message to the forum saying contributors.
Let's move on to your last change there.
Yes.
And if there's room, we'll go back to the
All right, this one, okay, no, okay. I think I rolled back those. I did capture it in the meeting minutes. And we also have document history we can go back to if worse comes to worse, if I miss something. Okay. So next topic.
It's budget. The last topic.
This one might be the quick one, right? So.
Like, seriously.
There we go.
Okay. So Amelia had a lot of things which I think are good to mention, such as, you know, we want to keep tabs on what is spent out of the budget and have, you know, sort of transaction level visibility. We want to evaluate our costs to see if there are opportunities for us to lower fees. You know, and things of that nature. Also, you know, we prefer to keep our budget dedicated towards, you know, specific goals and you know, not headcount. I think all that stuff is good feedback, but probably deserves to be in the proposed 2020 budget plan.
Yes,
That's probably the most important, most appropriate place to put that level of detail. Mm-hmm. Because it's something that we may decide to change year after year, right? And
correct.
And so what I recommend is that everything that's there, that distribution of annual fees, all that orange stuff, excuse me, green stuff, I don't know, you know, should go into the budget plan. And what I propose is at the bottom, you know, right there is just a simple sentence. It says, you know, it is the intent of the MicroProfile to operate a low-cost working group, and that we will evaluate our budget annually as membership, you know, or as membership changes for opportunities to maintain low fees and costs. So it's just a simple statement that we are not looking for the budget to go up. If more people join and that allows us to adjust fees or lower them in some way, we'll look at it, but our appetite is generally to keep things cheap or cheaper.
Yes. So on this one, for everyone here, the sentence, we have super long comments going, and I do agree. I wrote this the day that the charter with the budget was added on, because I was being asked, so what is the money? How is the money going to be spent? So based on those questions, I went into distribution fees, but I don't expect the document, the charter, to hold this documentation. I expect that to go into the wiki that will talk about budget. That we can use Drive, I don't really care, because people and companies that will decide to join, they need to know, hey, my money, what is it going to be? You have a maintenance fee that is the Eclipse that usually charges 10–15%, and then the rest of the money goes directly to the project itself. And then we are going to be totally transparent on how we do everything. You know, that would be like to the cent. Why? Because most companies have already stated, I don't want to pay for headcount. I want, if I dedicate 3 developers to MicroProfile, I want them to come back to me and say, yeah, they're having fun. We're working on this project while supporting our clients, and their time is what I'm investing in the project itself, right? I just need to lower the entry access, and we're fixing this, and this is what the distribution of annual fees does. It's already copy and paste, so we can take it out of here. If you have not read it, please read it. I'm extremely happy that actually we're talking about it, because I was not okay to add fees and not have in mind a document like this that has a reference. Questions, and if you haven't read it, please read it. John, can you show more of it? It's really, really dedicated based on questions that I got. Talks about first year fees, subsequent years. Usually first year includes legal. Super specific on what we have seen.
Well, right, it's too specific for a charter, right? So it is appropriate for a budget plan, however.
Yes, yes, I'm like, it's very operationally transparent. So if everyone else is happy, we can take it away. And then I have a question that was added into the agenda that is about the budget, budget fees for solution members that I want to ask before the call is done.
Right. I agree with what David said. I think it's good to discuss the budget spending and remove from here.
So I'm gonna accept this suggestion.
John and I already copy pasted the document and I created it yesterday. So,
Okay.
And it was already, I already added into the comments, but I didn't want this to be gone yesterday without us starting and explaining why it exists. So it can be rejected.
Okay.
It's very specific. Let's go to the agenda. We have 5 minutes.
Well, wait a minute, because John, you accepted this thing, but I had a comment in there about whether or not this phrase here should have moved up into our vision instead of being down here in the budget.
Oh, sorry about that. Missed that.
Great point,
Yeah,
Kevin.
I was pro vision when we kind of worked on this.
Yep.
But
let's put it into the Kevin. That is really good feedback. Let's put
I'm
it into
all right with it.
Okay.
Let's move it. I mean, I think it looks good as long. I mean, it's nice to have that there by the numbers, so when people see the numbers, it's good. But if it's stronger as a vision statement, I guess it's all right.
Yeah, let's keep it twice. I say repetitive.
No,
can't be repetitive.
Like, so David, were you able to work on the new sentence? We can go into.
I just softened it up.
Okay.
Is that the vision statement? Is that?
No, I thought it was a principle.
No, John, it cannot go under additional. That is like nice to have. This needs to go into values.
Oh.
The values, the sentence, it needs to go under values, not as additional working group, please. It needs to go under values. It's super important.
You just stick it right under openness.
Yeah.
By the way, additionally is not optional or nice to have. Additionally is additionally.
Yeah, but it's not a priority. We're talking about community values. We value.
Put like low cost in there.
Yeah. Okay.
Or like low barrier to entry.
I may tweak that a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's keep going.
Yep.
Thank you.
That was awesome, Kevin. Okay.
Okay.
So there's a sentence I just said: specifications have been managed in a way that provides open access to all committers. It doesn't. It's simply a historical statement of fact over the last 4 years. It's lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't bind us to do it. It just says have been.
Mm-hmm. +1 from me. Let's move on. What guys? What is going on here? Just vote.
I saw Kevin accepted it, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, sounds good. It's good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. So then are we done with the charter? Are we happy?
Yeah, happy. We'll have Paul and Mike, whoever, probably do a once over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're to a point where we can, I guess, submit it. Mm-hmm. I'm stunned. I mean, absolutely stunned that it's 11:50. That it's the top of the hour. I thought this was going to go way further. So
because we have been working.
Kudos.
We have been working individually. So can we go into the agenda? I have one question for Eclipse. Clarification on the budget for solution members. So can we go into the agenda, John? Thank you so much. Here. So the question is, when you see the charter, it says a corporate company, if it earns less than 1 million, needs to pay 1,500. Then on the bottom, it says solution members is 5,000 for nonprofit organizations. That means, is it that a JOG will have to pay 5,000 and instead of 1,500? And if so, why is that? And this is for Eclipse. Ivar, Tanya, I'm not sure if Tanya is here. Tanya is here. And Ivar, can you answer, can you clarify the consumption of these fees for us? And thank you.
I really cannot clarify because I don't understand. Well, this has been discussed with, you know, elsewhere. I'm just kind of looking at this for the first time. So let me see. The annual membership of solution members is based on this. Okay, so this is just the rule based on the company size, the corporation size.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, so this has been handled by, and I believe discussed in different groups, and I don't want to kind of get into this conversation when I was not part of it.
So one of the things that stands out to me here is that, you know, the first bullet point where it states that if your annual revenues are less than 1 million and less than 10 employees, contractors, the fee's 1,500. But what if that nonprofit has annual revenues of less than 1 million? Then according to this, it needs to pay 5,000.
And JOG, Vince, you are from a JOG. How do you feel about that? And Mike?
Well, it's just a little confusing as to, that's slightly different from the revenue bands because seems to be a big jump between the first and the second. But
so I think the specific situation needs to be discussed. That's the only only thing that I can say. And I do understand your point, Vincent, but I don't think we have enough information that I can answer you.
The only reason I bring that up is because you could have a nonprofit that has annual revenues of $100,000. Yet they would have to pay a 5,000 membership fee, whereas if they weren't a non-profit, they would pay 1,500.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and that's a valid question to raise. So there's nothing wrong.
Yeah,
with
I'm just raising the point. It's I think it's probably something that ESF needs to look at.
So then, can we do Tanya, Ivar? Can I send a copy paste with the link of this?
No, you don't send it to me. You send it whoever has been in this conversation with Paul Buck, I believe, and
it'll be Paul.
you know, so yeah, so I don't think this is an issue at all, but it's certainly whoever is in discussion about the budget, please do raise it. And I don't think this is something that, you know, cannot be easily addressed.
Okay, so then John and Kevin, can you do that kind of question, like copy paste and say what X? And we can say, hey, check the last 5-10 minutes of this call. And this is from, you know, Mike has not said a word, but do you understand this, Mike? Should you join?
Well, we've already started the conversation. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I know, but privately, we're bringing it to the agenda.
Yep.
And this is important because it's recorded. It is, you know, we are taking it into the light to say, these are some things that we don't understand. Why are they? And can, you know, this is not fair or is fair, and what's going on? So it needs to be tackled, and the resolution needs to come to the public as well.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with Vincent that that this is a concern for sure. Right now, you know, we're being funded by a nonprofit, the Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey. We are always looking for new funding as well, and but yeah, it's an interesting situation that I hope can be resolved.
Yeah.
So.
It's good to hear that.
Yeah.
One of the last things before we go, and I don't want to close it, but there is one ticket I created yesterday because we know that this call will close the charter. So MicroProfile, Eclipse MicroProfile, by the working group, goes into MicroProfile itself. We drop Eclipse from its naming, and already the Twitter handle has been changed. The Google Forums, the two have been changed, but now the website will go into Faithless Left, and also all the Git projects. If we check, John, can you click into the tickets, because it says all the things we need to do. This will take some time.
Is this something that we can cover during the next call? Because we're 5 minutes over.
We can cover that later.
Okay, because this is something that is coming and it's important for everyone to know.
We're over time,
Yeah.
and so we probably should.
Okay,
And we can cover it during the marketing call. I think it's next Monday as well. So.
Yeah, and the community call, so then everyone is aware. I just added it here because it's working group, and this is what happens when we close the charter. So.
Yep. Okay, so we will continue that conversation. I really thanks everyone for getting this done in roughly an hour. So it is 14. So the next week's call, same bad time, same bad channel. It's the regular live Hangout call. The second half of which we can continue to discuss this and maybe follow up on some of the items that we haven't completed. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you hopefully in 1 week.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Super fun.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Okay,
Bye,
thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Take care now. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.